Hey everyone, can you hear me? Doing a sound check for you. Hello, you guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. I can hear you, you can hear me. I'm hoping people online can hear us all. Nicole, can you tell us if you can hear everybody and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Yep, I can hear everyone.
Great. I want to welcome everyone excuse me, to the February 18th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting. It's 7:01. And Macy, can you take the roll? I will be in shortly, but I'm getting online right now. We lost them. Can't hear you, Macy. But yeah,
Oh,
Macy,
did we, was it somebody online who responded? Or was it actually somebody in the room?
that was Macy's voice I heard. And then, well, but maybe I was wrong.
Hey,
I
how,
got a text from Brett earlier saying they were working on the audio, and I thought that was Macy's voice.
oh, no, I'm thinking now because no one's being responsive. I'm thinking it was not.
But I did get from all of you folks that are online. I did get a text a few minutes ago from someone with town staff in the room, and they were having technical difficulties, so they're working on it.
Mhm.
Looks like we might have lost them all together now.
Yeah, hopefully they're just rebooting. That Peter Kasich external. Peter, is that you? Are you calling in from outside, or was that?
Hey, Billy, this is Chris Larson. I just logged in here to Teams. We're struggling with the audio in the room. We can't hear you, and I don't know if you can hear us when we're speaking through the main
No.
connection.
No, we can't hear you at all through the main connection. Can you hear us talking?
Nope, this is just on my personal laptop. I just logged in to see if, let you know what was going on.
Yeah, and I've
Okay.
been talking with Nicole. And,
Yeah, we could see that you guys were talking, but we can't hear a thing, so.
All right. We'll stay posted.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, Chris, Larson, are you still there?
Oh, yeah, we're here.
I'm getting a text from Andrew Dewart, about this happened at their last NVDA meeting. He ended up using a laptop. There appeared to be a bad connection on the computer amplifier interface.
Isn't Andrew on? How did you guys solve it, Andrew?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, I used my laptop. I ran the sound. So my laptop speakers became the speakers for the meeting. People had to hear other people talking through my microphone. We were able to get the speakers to provide audio, but it seemed that the computer, the laptop that's usually used to pick up audio and feed it into the amp wasn't working.
Okay.
So
Can you guys hear us right now?
Yeah, now we
yes,
can.
yeah.
Okay, I think we're running.
Okay, we'll keep it.
We've hooked up the owl.
Oh, cool. We'll keep Andrews as the plan B, but it sounds like that's pretty similar or a somewhat similar remedy. Thanks you all. So when you're ready, we can go ahead and take the roll. Luke was running a little late. He's not there already, and I'm going to be in a few. I just wanted to start the meeting. So Macy, when you're ready, you can call a roll. There's 3 of us online.
It's 7:07. Mayor Billy,
Yep, here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
I'm here.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes, I'm here.
Trustee Larson.
Yep.
Trustee Maris,
Yes.
Trustee Ty.
Yes.
And then I'd like to note for the record that Trustee Miller will be joining us this evening.
Thanks, appreciate that, Macy, very much.
Mhm.
So we'll go ahead and we'll start with the consent agenda. And we have 3 items on the agenda: warrants, recent warrants, the minutes from our last meeting, and then sponsoring Ruby Gustafson to attend the PICA conference in Colorado Springs. Any clarifying questions for John, probably? Or Macy?
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
And then a motion, a second. Macy, when you're ready.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Larson,
Yes.
Trustee Maris,
Yes.
Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Trustee Ty,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, everyone. We'll go into our staff reports. John, or if, you know, I don't know if you each want to talk, or John, you want to talk a bit, and then we'll have clarifying questions.
Mayor and trustees, you have my staff reports and other staff reports as well. We're working to incorporate the BCSO staff report, and then we're also next time going to have one from the co-responder as well. But if you have any questions for me or staff, please let me know.
Any clarifying questions for staff? I don't hear any. Anyone online? Anya, Nicole?
Nope, nothing from my end. Looks good.
No.
I don't think I have any questions myself. John, is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
She mentions the process for that sustainability, the ERA grant that you guys approved the concept report in the last board meeting. And I just wanted to note that Cass and Andrew Bliss have been working with Britt to determine what that project looks like. And so we're still looking at the concept paper. It's due on the 27th. And we're looking at kind of two viable options, something at the wastewater plant and something at our water tanks. So that's kind of the direction that they're taking there.
Okay. Thanks for that update. Anything else? John? If not, we can go into the BOT report, mayor report, BOT report. I don't have a lot to report myself. Most thanks, Ty, for turning in your report. My apologies. The rest of us didn't get a chance to, but I was gone the last week of January for a conference for my work, but I was able to attend a well-attended and great event today, a town hall with our representative Joe Nagoose, and they thought he did a great job of answering questions and giving his insights as to where things are these days in Nederland and in Nederland, oh my God, in DC, and just his outlook in the present and what he can imagine in the future. And I think one thing he did that I appreciated was he made it a point, especially towards the end, a couple of times, to talk about it's important that we do what we can do and let our voices be heard, and no matter where you sit on either side of the fence, like it's a time for whether people are happy or discouraged or sad or scared or whatever, it's not a time to be hopeless, and it's a time to stay motivated and take action and kind of think of the long game and know that there are checks and balances, and things come in cycles, and our country has endured lots of things throughout the centuries. So I appreciated his message. And then his visit, we went on to the food pantry, and that was a productive visit too. Other folks want to give some kind of I was in on the peak to peak health and human services meeting too, where Annette brought us through a bunch of kind of restructuring of how they're going to do their meetings to go every other month, and just kind of an open dialogue between the people that were there.
Yeah, on my end, Mayor Billy, not much to report other than I'll be visiting the Youth Advisory Board this Thursday, pop in on them, help, answer any questions that they're going to have regarding things that are happening in town. Still getting to Dr. Cog, although I'll be missing the meeting this month because of the Planning Commission working session. And but other than that, That's about it from my end.
Thanks. Thanks, Nicole. Other trustees? Anything to update us on from the other boards?
This is Chris. Still, BZA has yet to meet in the entire time I've been on this board again.
Dang it.
But we did have a meeting of the Boulder County Consortium of Cities. I think it was last week. Jonathan and I both attended. It was all virtual because of cold weather down below last week. And there were probably about a dozen representatives of communities around the county. Jamestown was there and then mostly down below. But just talking about the bills people are watching in the State House, didn't really hear anything of particular importance to bring forward to this yet. They're dealing a lot, trying to decide whether or not they, Boulder should take a position on the semi-automatic weapons bill, things like that, which kind of, we have never discussed and not really want to wade into that one quite yet. But it was good to finally get to attend one of those meetings and catch up with the other members of the county.
Thanks, Chris. Other trustees?
Yeah, this is Tanya. Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, Tanya.
Okay, well, I'll just brief the NDDA's finalizing their locations for the summer concert series and dates, as well as going over the sub area plan. And also there's going to be is a bag fee implementation going on. And so they were just discussing outreach to businesses for that. And we do have a vacancy also at the NDDA. So we are accepting applications. The next meeting, we're going to hopefully have many great applicants to choose from. So spread the word.
Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, this is Trustee Miller. Some updates from ProSab is that we're still working on some of the trail maintenance opportunities in front of us. I think maybe one of the more interesting things is Eric Coombs, as the board heard in the last meeting, is working on a recreation district plan with the county and other parties. So that he gave us a pretty thorough report in that meeting. So hopefully we'll hear some more from him on that. And we are still working on the Prost plan and starting to get that into hopefully a little bit more of a final document, hopefully by the end of May. It's the plan for the Prost. Those are the highlights. Volunteer program is another thing, which is super important for ProSab. I know.
Thanks, Lou. Oh, go ahead.
I just John's been working on that and getting the legal side of that worked out so we can get some volunteer work helping with the park stuff.
Thanks, Luke. I did. I just real quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'll chime in real quick. I did meet last week with the Coombs brothers, Gavin Coombs and Eric Coombs Ismail, not really brothers, and talked a little bit about the district, kind of where they're at these days with that progress. So that was super. That was a great meeting, and it's just good to get a sense of where they're at.
And last thing from me, this is Jenny again. I have nothing to report, but our next NEPADAC meeting is tomorrow, so we should have things to report after that.
Thanks, and appreciate that, Tony. And you said the next NEPADAC meeting, is that what I heard?
That's right.
You guys are a little choppy. John, is that what I read? That NEPADAC, are they the ones paying for that shuttle we have going on through town on the weekends in February?
That's correct. They're looking to increase the service level on that as well as they run this pilot program. So I think we should hear maybe you'll hear something about that tomorrow. But I think that's the goal, is to try to show that that can be a viable town loop just in general. So.
And
John, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, you can see information about that in the Nederland Bugle, which links, I think, to the town website, where they have like a tentative schedule where it runs between town and I think the Ned Rink and the extremes of the Ned Rink in the ski area.
Yeah, and Eldora was very instrumental in setting this up. They were able to use their company that they use to provide other transit services, so that we were able to iterate quickly to make this program happen. So they were really good partners on this program. And so far, I think we've seen some good ridership numbers for how early in the pilot it is.
Actually, just to clarify, the NEPDAC funds that are funding it, I missed the last meeting, but I was looking at the notes from the last meeting and it was just a discussion item. I don't know if Andrew, okay, no, we're not sure.
It is NEPDAC funding. There is excess funding available through the 2033 end of the current funding structure. And so another thing to note is that I have been talking to the Boulder County team and to RTD a little bit about other options that we could do with that funding, like maybe have a full-time transit coordinator up here in the region. And so I think that's something that will be continued effort forward with NEPDAC.
I just have a couple things to add from the youth council meeting that happened after I turned in my BOD report. We discussed anonymous tutoring for students and figuring out how we get students to notice and like be able to call in anonymously, like putting up posters, that kind of thing. And then we also discussed, I don't know quite what to call it, but 2 chairs is like kind of something we want to stick in the park. And it's 2 chairs facing each other, but they will be made out of old skis. So if anybody has old skis, contact me. I'll come get them. So we still need to collect quite a few pairs of skis. And that's it.
Thank you.
This is longer appropriate. Thank you, Peter.
Donnie, did you have a question back when we were talking about the shuttle? The NEPDAC weekend shuttle?
Yeah, I was just curious about the ridership. Do we have numbers?
I think they're going to report them at the board meeting tomorrow. I know that they're pleased with the numbers. That's what I know, but hopefully they'll hear that at the board meeting tomorrow.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I don't know if this is being pushed at the elementary school a bit to the parents there, maybe have the school send out something or put it on their Facebook pages, because that would be the age group I think that would use it a lot, and junior high kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is Peter. I believe it went into the last Panther post as well, so it definitely went to the.
Good.
After tomorrow's meeting, instead of waiting another month to kind of share updates, maybe I can send out an email. The meeting is public. Anybody that wants to join is welcome to join too. But I'll try to remember to send out an email to everybody, just that you've got those numbers.
Thanks, Tierney. Any other items, staff reports or BOT reports? If not, and we'll go into our first, sorry, I lost the my computer. Our first information item of the evening. Got 2 information items tonight. The water model update and recommendations, 2025 water and sewer design project. And I think Andrew Bliss.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't say too much. I just want to make a point that we have 2 brief presentations for you. These are both related to capital improvement projects that you all funded last year. We want to update you on progress and next steps. First, it will be Andrew Sparn and Maddie Turner from JBA. And then next, Lindsay Danforth, will give a GIS update. So Andrew Sparn will give a presentation on the water model first. I'll turn it over to him.
Real
Does
quick,
this work?
real quick, are we gonna get a video up? Can we get that out of you guys?
Like the owls only
Once-
capturing us and not.
Once he starts talking, the camera will go to him. Should
Okay.
anyhow.
Oh, boom, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Bliss. Well, good evening, Mayor, trustees, town staff. Thanks for having us tonight. We're here to present on the hydraulic water model update. My name's Andrew Sparn. This is Madeline Turner.
Welcome.
Thank you, Billy. So tonight, we're here to review, what's the project background? What were the goals that we went into with this project? What are the really nitty-gritty details of the water model? And then what are the results and different recommendations that came out of the model? And then how can you utilize this model in the future for the town's benefit? Background for this project. Nederland had a previous water model and it was in water gyms. So this is really an update to that model. The new model's in Info Water Pro, which is beneficial because as you're working on your GIS effort, Info Water utilizes GIS as the backbone, and there's a GIS gateway. They speak to each other. So there's an, inherent efficiencies. It's also just way more user friendly. The data visualization that you can get out of the model, you can see the results a lot easier. The figures look better. And it's just a better all around model. And then you can leverage as you update your GIS over time, your water models also being updated. So you're not doing two separate things. They're almost integrated. And also, it can do much more complex analysis. Multiple fire hydrants running at the same time. This is where Maddie will actually tell you how it works as our modeler, but it's a much more powerful tool. So what are the goals for the project? First, it's been about 5 years since your last model. There's been different pipes that have been put in the ground, different conditions and PRV vaults. So really step one is to update the model to make sure it's accurate and reflects today's condition, in addition to the efforts of updating the GIS model. So that was the first goal. Secondly, the extended period simulation, which is instead of just like a static snapshot, looking at a 96-hour modeling scenario, so much more powerful. And then what are the analyses that we looked at? It's what is the fire flow around town? What are the different velocities, the water losses within the pipe? Are your hydrants spaced correctly throughout town to be able to fight a fire? Do you have isolation valves in different areas of the distribution system such that you could isolate water main break? And then also, are there dead ends that affect water quality? Are there areas where you could have better looping? Are there certain areas of the distribution system where pressure zones could connect to each other to make the system more efficient? And then also just globally, are there areas where there's pipe freezing? Let me jump in, Maddie.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to take it over and discuss at a high level some of the steps we took to build the updated model. Starting with the system layout. So we started the updates using recently created GIS shapefiles from the town. We use these shapefiles to build the base structure of the model, and we also pulled in attribute data such as hydrant ID numbers and diameter and material for the pipes. We also incorporated current operational parameters into the model, such as pressure reducing valve settings and pump set points. Then we updated the total demands throughout the system based on town water meter data. And so these were broken into 3 separate categories: residential, commercial, and irrigation. The main 2 were residential and commercial. This designation was mainly to account for differences in diurnal water use. The patterns for each of the 2 are shown in this figure on this slide. And for irrigation, the town doesn't necessarily have separate irrigation meters. However, there were a couple of high water users identified from the meter data that were high water users because of the irrigation use in the summer. So we pulled these ones out separately to account for higher irrigation use at the elementary school and the middle school / high school for 3 days in the summer. Next slide, please. So the next step in updating the model was calibrating it. And so this was done using hydrant flow test data from the town. And this is an important step because this verifies that the model generally matches field conditions. We further calibrated the model using input from the town. This was both field observations and SCADA data. Again, just verifying that the model is generally aligning with both observed and recorded data. We also coordinated with the Nederland Fire Protection District to determine the specific parameters with which we assessed for fire flow at each of the hydrants, as well as hydrant spacing throughout the system. And so what we had kind of discussed with the Fire Protection District was our goal for fire flow was each hydrant being able to provide at least 1,000 gallons per minute for at least 60 minutes without dropping pressure anywhere in the system below 20 psi. And for spacing, the goal was to have no more than 600 feet between hydrants and a maximum road frontage distance of 300 feet. I also do want to take the opportunity to thank the town staff, especially Andrew Bliss, for providing an immense amount of data to use in this model. It not only made our jobs easier, but made for a great model. So before diving into some of the specific model results, I did want to just briefly show this figure from the report. It shows the overall system layout. So you can see this is color coded and divided into 7 different pressure zones, the boundaries of which are determined by either pumps or pressure reducing valves. So the 7 zones are kind of, starting off in the southwest corner, you have the darker blue is the high school tank zone, feeding into the lighter blue downtown zone. The red and pink zones are the Big Springs low and high zones. And then on the north side of town, you have the Hilltop low and high zones in yellow and orange, as well as the Caribou Ridge zone in green. And we also have pipes color coded by diameter, smaller diameter pipes shown in green. The majority of the pipes are 6 to 8 inches, which are shown in blue. Slide, please. So this next figure shows the results for available flow at each hydrant. We're going to talk about this in more detail, zone by zone, in a few slides, but the overall big picture here is that these are color coded based on available hydrant flow. The legend shows the range of available flows as well as the counts of hydrants within that zone. But big picture is green or blue hydrants meet that goal of at least 1,000 gallons per minute we identified. Yellow almost meets that goal, but not quite. Red and orange, a bit less so. Slide. So this last figure shows a few different recommendations based on model results. Again, we'll go over in this in a bit more detail zone by zone, but on a high level, this covers recommended locations for hydrants and isolation valves based on the spacing goals. The red highlights are where the spacing between hydrants is greater than 600 feet, with recommended hydrants shown in yellow. And the darker red lines here show where there are potential looping projects to increase system redundancy, which might also in turn help fire flow. So breaking this down to kind of a zone by zone picture, starting with the high school tank and downtown zones. For fire flow, honestly, pretty good fire flow, except at a few dead ends throughout these zones, which is to be expected to some extent. At dead ends, water can only flow in one direction as opposed to a loop system, and it's not always reasonable to have an entirely looped system, so this is to be expected. There are a few hydrants recommended, just 3 in this area based on the frontage spacing requirements, and a couple of recommended valves based on spacing. Overall in these zones, nothing major, no surprises. Next slide, please. So going into the Big Spring zones, again, we have the Big Springs low and high zone. Low zone is shown in red, the high zone is shown in pink, The difference between these two is the pink zone is entirely pumped. And so you'll see that in the Big Springs High zone, shown in pink, there are technically no fire hydrants can meet that 1,000 gallon per minute threshold. And this is because the fire flow pump at the Big Springs pump station is not able to supply that 1,000 gallon per minute flow. However, a second fire flow pump was incorporated into the design of this pump station. And so there already is designated space and connections set up for a second pump. So overall, the recommendation is just to purchase and install a second pump to have on standby to provide higher fire flows. Also, fire flows in this area can be increased by upsizing some of the pipes. There are a lot of 4-inch diameter pipes in these zones, which you can see by the green pipes in this figure. There are also a few 6-inch pipes on Pine Cliff Trail, as well as the pink film draw line that could help with fire flow in the eastern portion of the Big Spring zone if upsized. So staying within the Big Spring zone, aside from fire flow, we also honed in on pipe freezing and hydrant spacing. So the image on the right shows town identified areas in pink where there have been issues with mainline freezing in the past. Technically, you could try to improve water circulation to help with this, but ultimately the best option for that scenario is going to be either reburying and or insulating these pipes. The figure on the left shows recommended hydrant locations to meet those spacing requirements. Again, recommended hydrants shown in yellow. Looking at the big picture, at not only these freezing problem areas, but also the areas with recommended hydrants and pipe upsizing, there is an opportunity to combine some of these recommendations into the same project or a few projects. So instead of, say, just reburying some of these existing lines, you can also upsize the line and address some of these hydrant spacing concerns as needed to check all these boxes at the same time. Moving on to the next area, which is the hilltop Caribou Ridge zones. Starting off with fire flow, there's actually all the hydrants meet the fire flow goal in the Caribou Ridge zone. In the Hilltop High zone in orange, there's generally pretty good flow, except again at a couple dead ends. The main one being the longer dead end on Indian Peaks and Ridge Road, and just a couple smaller dead ends close to the Hilltop Tank. In the Hilltop Low zone in yellow, there are a lot more dead ends and not much looping in this zone. And ultimately, there are 3 recommended hydrants in this area to meet hydrant spacing requirements. There is, in the top figure, you can see there's 1 recommended on Sundown Trail, 1 near the town shop off of Ridge Road. And the 3rd recommended hydrant is on the Peak to Peak Highway, sort of northeast of the community center. And so this hydrant is recommended not only to meet those spacing requirements, but also to be able to provide fire protection right along the highway. So when we discussed this with the fire protection district, they expressed that it would be valuable to have a hydrant there. Again, not only for fire protection, or for the spacing requirements, but also to have fire protection in the event of a crash along the highway, especially given that there are tanker trucks that are allowed to drive on this road. Also in this zone, there are a couple of recommended smaller upsizing projects. You can see there's a couple of green pipes, so smaller diameter pipes on Tejas and Way. And there are a couple of recommended looping projects. 2 looping options are shown in this bottom figure to reduce the length of the dead end on Ridge Road. Again, this would just help with redundancy and likely better fire flow as well. And then in the top figure, that shows a potential looping project on Navajo Trail to connect the Hilltop High zone to the Hilltop Low zone. This is actually already a recommended project in the capital improvements plan that is called the Sunside Pipeline Addition Project. Again, this would just help with redundancy and likely fire flow as well. And then kind of moving on to our last focus area here is actually the community center. So while discussing the model results with the town as well as the fire protection district, the community center was identified as a top priority area for increased fire protection. So in the top figure on this slide, you can see the community center designated with a star. And then around there, you can see the fire flow results. So you see the hydrant ID as well as the available fire flow kind of labeled on each one. So upon the first glance, you see a bunch of green and blue hydrants around the community center. However, none of them are actually convenient to access from the building, your boots on the ground. So on the south side, those two hydrants on West 4th Street are both downhill. The one that is shown in blue is also on the south side, is along the path that's winding up to the community center and on the opposite side of the parking lot from the building. And the other three around the building would need to be accessed through adjacent properties. Additionally, the community center is accessed off of the Peak to Peak Highway and or the west end of Forest Road. So it would be ideal and intuitive to have hydrant directly adjacent to the building on the west and or north side at the main egress points. Furthermore, there is no looping in the hilltop low zone on this side of the highway. Again, just not ideal for system redundancy. And lastly, the size and occupancy of the building will require higher fire flows to fight a fire than the surrounding residential properties. So ultimately, additional hydrants will be recommended, and there is a potential to provide a loop around the community center, which is illustrated in that lower figure. But further modeling is recommended to determine the best way to increase fire flow protection and just kind of best bang for your buck.
Thanks, Manny. It's very clear and thorough. So the hydraulic model is a town asset, and we shouldn't view it as, all right, we created this model in info water and all right, we did it, it's on the shelf. It's something that it's not static, it is dynamic. And as the town replaces a line, adds a valve, adds a hydrant, we want that not only updated in the GIS, but to be updated within the water model. It's useful. It's a useful tool. It can help inform future developments and how that might affect your existing water infrastructure, and what lines that are existing might need to change to accommodate certain developments. It also helps the town in their own capital improvement efforts and utilize something, a model, to inform those capital improvement decisions. We can analyze it prior to, digging holes and spending lots of money. And I think probably the biggest thing is that Maddie always says it can help address those what if scenarios that we can't really even fathom right now. They come up, you can run it in a model, it's in a computer, not out in the field, and just really helps the town understand best path forward regardless of the situation. So that is the end of the plan programming. I guess you guys have been listening very intently, so if there's any questions, we are here.
Any questions? Just go for it.
Regarding the water flow charts you were showing at the end there, would the community center be where we should focus on first, since we don't have endless money, probably have to do one thing at a time? Or where do you think, like, what would be the list of how we should attack the deficits?
You're correct. So, when the Andrews got on the call, Andrew Bliss, Andrew Farn, Andrew Jocelyn, we just called each other by last names to make stations easier. But Jocelyn, one question we do like to ask, not only with the public works team, but with fire protection, where do you lose sleep at night? If you could spend $1, where do you lose sleep at night? Jocelyn identified the community center as something that's used every day. It's very well used by the community, and there's really some pretty tough options to be able to defend this space. So that was a very high priority that he listed.
Yeah, that's a very good question. This is Andrew Bliss, just adding to that.
that very question came up, where we could do further analysis, further prioritizing and spend more resources on additional planning. But I think everyone, including, you know, with a brief conversation with Jonathan as well, have an interest in moving towards construction. And so, one of the things that's later in this agenda is a professional services agreement with JVA, but also a task for JVA to do design work, to design, that water main around, the community center and look at a few alternatives, with the goal of that being a shovel-ready project then at the end of that design. And so, I know JVA might be heading out, so, but if you have any questions about that project as well, that might be good to ask them as.
So that's kind of a goal for this year, is to get a shovel-ready design so that maybe next year we start looking for funding.
Exactly. And
as written in that scope, it would be initially looking at multiple alternatives within the model before just jumping into, CAD drawings with plan and profile. But the ultimate goal is, after finding that best solution, after running 3 different models, pick that best value solution, and then now you have shovel-ready construction documents.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. I had one more question. What is the average cost for a second pump station like in Big Springs? Like, what are we looking at?
So that's a loaded question. For Big Spring specifically, having been the designer, you really just need to purchase a pump, because it was designed with the forethought that at some point in the future, the funds would be available to have the second pump. So the natural gas generator is sized for the future second fire pump. The room has the space, and the plumbing is set up such that a second fire pump can be landed in and plumbed and have two fire pumps online.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions from trustees?
Yeah, so, this is obviously, maybe not an eye opener for anybody, but, highlighting the issue in Big Springs. Not only do we not have fire egress there, but we also have, looks like, very subpar, water delivery. How do we prioritize? I mean, obviously JVA is working on both fire egress and this project. Like, how do we prioritize kind of the best thing for that neighborhood? In terms of, I mean, obviously we're on the path already for fire egress, but like, either of those, either that nor this project is like ready to actually do anything. How do we prioritize, between those two things for Big Springs, and including like, the pump station, additional hydrants, increasing pipe diameter, freezing, getting things above or below the frost line, and fire egress? Like, how do we kind of, like you said, get the most bang for our buck in there?
So that's a good question, and they're definitely separate efforts, yet all kind of one and the same, and definitely continue to charge ahead to finish the fire egress of, what's the best way to get people out of here and wrap that scope up. As far as on the water distribution side, Maddie alluded to it. There is you could take a big bite and look at, satisfying multiple things with upsizing lines, lowering pipes, and adding hydrants. But now that's multiple millions of dollars, right? So you package that in and then go chase funding, or you budget each year of, we're gonna tackle this road. And each year, as kind of in the rate study and the updated capital improvement plan that you guys saw pretty recently, that's anticipating doing a little bit, biting off a little bit every single year. And what is the highest priority? And there's a little bit of nuance in what is the highest priority. So
that was gonna be my next question, was like, how much of this is accounted for in the rate study and capital plan that we saw recently?
I would say every project that's recommended here is not in that CIP. That CIP needed to, it was the chicken or the egg, needed to get in with the rate study person to be able to present that for your informed decision for budgeting.
Okay.
Now that the model is complete with not the other
things you guys are juggling, but with the distribution system specifically, we can rank these projects on priority, have opinions of probable cost and help, how do we take care of that over 5 years, 10 years and how fast? And then does it make sense if something becomes available, if there is funding? And, the federal landscape's challenging sometimes to keep track of, but if it is available, then maybe that's something you say go and get in an application and try to do a bigger project that combines multiple of the smaller items identified.
And so now that this modeling is done, how long does it take for us to put price tags on some of these things so we can start thinking about chasing funding for it?
So distribution piping's pretty straightforward, in my opinion. It's not a big biological process or treatment on water. Piping, valves, infrastructure. If you know the linear foot and we know what we're dealing with, the Rocky Mountains, we're pretty good at giving an opinion of probable cost to replace those pipes.
Yeah, so that seems like it's something we want to do pretty quickly, is figure out like a priority list for that area and then put some numbers on it.
So that's a great point, and it's a tough decision to make. We only have so much money budgeted in any given year. We have $50,000 budgeted for distribution system design this year. And this is where we made the decision of, do we go further down the road of large scale analysis and prioritization, or do we move towards a specific project, getting that closer to actual construction? Our recommendation is move towards one specific project with construction. But that exact prioritization needs to happen, but the initial recommendation is we use the money we have for this year towards going towards a shovel-ready project. But I think whether we have projects, budget savings this year, or our recommendation for the budget next year would be that larger scale analysis.
Yeah, it seems like if we could just, even if it's a super cursory, like, okay, these are the easy things that we can knock off, like adding another pump, like, seems like that's good bang for the buck right there.
Yeah, and I did just want to jump in and, mention really quick that the model, especially the fire flow analysis, is conservative. The fire flow analysis, we ran it with peak day demands at the peak hour, middle of the afternoon for an entire hour. And so, the model is for, planning and prioritization purposes. It's not all doom and gloom right in this moment. So
Is the peak consumption times generally overlap with peak fire times? I mean, it seems like it would. I mean, that's when it's really dry. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, in the summer, when we think of fire season, that's when your peak water usage is. So it is conservative. We would always want to be conservative, but it's not outlandish. Peak water use is peak fire season.
And the fire department was involved throughout this project, and it's really was a question to them where their priorities were, and that's where this community center project rose to the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious, and just the double whammy with big increases.
Yeah, I mean, this truck, it's so well used, right? We're having a BOT meeting, people are playing basketball. I mean, it is the community center, so you would want it to be defensible.
It's also our emergency center for the region.
So.
So if it's okay, I'd like to let JVA go home, Andy and Andrew, and because I'm sure they've got other lives to get back to, but also they charge us for their time. So unless there's any other questions related, so you'll see another action item later in the agenda related to JVA. But I think maybe if you have any other questions, this would be the best time to ask it.
So any questions on that item that comes later? Pop up while they're in the room. Nicole, Donnie?
What's that, Billy?
No, I'm good.
Just any questions for?
No, thank you.
I'm good.
Cool. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good to see you.
That will move on to our second, info item, this Schindler elevator.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, it was kind of a two-pronged attack. So along with this water model, we also did GIS work, and we wanted to give you just a brief update on all GIS work as well, so.
Oh, you probably said that at the beginning, I apologize. Go ahead.
And we should have said thank you because, all the blood, sweat and tears to get all that GIS info so we could actually do the model is because of your hard work. So thank you.
Thanks. All right, hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lindsay Danforth, and I absolutely love GIS and data. And I just so happened to have this opportunity to work with the town of Nederland in updating their GIS system. So I was working with Andrew to start with our water and sewer systems. And this was fitting in with the trustees' strategic plan to work on asset management and just kind of understand where our stuff is. And so I was lucky that you guys hired me. So the beginning of this project, one of the first things I had to do was take an inventory of all the GIS data and gain access to the defunct Esri account that held some of the data as well. So I worked with Esri to get our account back and then to start doing an inventory. And it was a mismatch of a lot of different things. We had people who were spinning up data sets in ArcGIS Online, and not having any domain control over what was being entered. So people were just freeform entering whatever. And so that makes it very hard to use the data and to do any kind of analysis. So we had groups of data that was in the online system, and then locally on a computer in the Public Works building, there were scatters of different data sets that were delivered by consultants that were developed by people 10 years ago. We have data back from like 2007 in different formats, like old formats and new formats. So I went through all of this different data, and also JBA sent me CAD files. So they had CAD files, we had GPS stuff, we had a lot of different things. None of it was really usable. So I spent a significant amount of time combing through that data and then creating the schemas so that we could actually use that data. So that the schema is basically how the data is designed, so you can ask questions of it. So you can ask, like, when was the last time that something was fixed or inspected, and show me that information, or show me a chart of the water flows over the last 5 years. So you can start to get that information from your data. So with the inventory, I also created governance plan. So it talks about how do we need to keep this data up to date, and how do we keep it a high quality data as well. Because if you start to let things slip, you start to let standards slip, then your data just becomes a jumble of things and then nobody uses it. And again, the initial focus was on the water and sewer mapping, but I did do a little extra work for fun for Nederland. So as I was doing the inventory, I managed to recover files for our zoning, for our downtown development, and also for streets. So I created a data set for our streets. We can see our plow routes, and actually shared that with the plow ops people so they have a live look into our GIS data to see our plow routes. So I did all that extra stuff just for fun. And because I was in the data and it was there, I just kind of tacked that on. And so you guys have that available to you. All right, so onto the GIS sewer mapping. So again, that was kind of my focus. I spent a lot of time collecting all the data and converting it from CAD files into usable GIS files and putting them into Esri recommended schemas, and then expanding those schemas to fit our needs and what Andrew needed to get from the data. So we have lots of data sets for our water distribution system, not only of our water lines, our service lines, hydrant lines, hydrants, meters, valves, pressure valves, pump stations, and facilities are all included in our GIS. So it is a comprehensive
water distribution system, and we all have that data mapped and ready to go. The big project we did this summer was hydrant inspections. So this is one of the first projects that we launched. So I created a schema design that relates inspection data and maintenance data to the hydrants. So anybody who knows databases, you have your primary table, and then you have these tables, you can have a one-to-many relate. So that means when you click on a hydrant, you can see all the times that it's been inspected. You can see all the maintenance that is related to it. And then again, you can start asking questions and seeing trends on that. And so it was really, really important to have the right database design to be able to ask these questions. And so then this summer, so we created a field map so that people could go out with their GPS unit and do the inspections and update the data. And in real time, then see that hydrant changes from a red color to a green color. Say, yep, we inspected it, all done. So they could move through the system and see what was accomplished. And the final output of being able to do all of these inspections and do the field work is that we were able to create a dashboard then. And the dashboard is just kind of a start of what we can do. And so we can have charts, we can have a lot of extra things on here, but the main thing is that somebody in the office on a larger screen than their cell phones, you can click on the hydrants, you can get the information about when was it last inspected, what work does it need to have done. You get to see the picture of it, and then we can have fun little indicators that say, well, how many inspections have we completed in this last year and what needs work. And I do have a Python script that runs in the background on the schedule that looks at the hydrants, and it's going to, when a year comes up, those hydrants start to become they need to be inspected again. So they'll start to change color through the system as they need to be inspected again. And as Andrew will talk about in a little bit, in our future steps, is that it'll create work orders then. So not only will they see the map, but they'll get a little ping on their phone that says, hey, you've got 15 hydrants you need to inspect today. And that's your job. And then they go out and they can work through those. So that was the big summer project, the hydrants. And Andrew's been working on some stuff on his own too, which I'm really impressed with how you take it to the GIS and the Esri suite of products. You've created so many of those surveys and collecting data, and the things that you've been able to create, really impressive. So this is our next step. I don't know if Andrew, if you want to talk about where you want to go, with the work orders.
Sure, yeah, so we're using work orders for about everything now. And I think the big thing we need now is to kind of create workflow for the scheduling where preventative maintenance that just needs to happen on a given schedule gets automatically assigned to staff, and then I'm blanking right now, but basically there's a lot of work that we could do. Another thing is that when we could pre-populate some of our work orders, so when we set a meter appointment, instead of someone creating calendar appointments with the information and then the worker to go out to kind of create the work order. But basically it could kind of be more streamlined with the work order system, all with the goal of kind of being more efficient with our time and tracking all of this work for lots of different reasons, including kind of seeing patterns, documenting, making sure we're doing everything correctly. But we've kind of have a base level of all the work orders we need in place at the moment.
Yeah, that's something that I began working on just recently, and so hopefully we'll be testing that in the next week or so. All right, I know you created a Board of Trustees dashboard. Do we want to share that with them, or because really it is kind of hard to see? So with all the data that's being entered into ArcGIS Online, it gives the ability to access those tables in the background and create these dashboards where you can start filtering the data, you can start looking at trends, you can have the little indicators, that's what they're called at the bottom there, where they can show you a count of something that you're looking at, like how many service requests have we handled in the last month, or how many things are outstanding at the moment. And I think, Andrew, you can talk to how many things you have.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a little side project, so just pretty much taking the existing data we're already collecting, you know, trying to put myself in your shoes of what's some of that data that you would want to see. So we have on here our treatment plant capacities that are updated daily with actual flows. Or we have an IGA with the city of Boulder, so how are we doing with that IGA? We really don't want any fire hydrants out of service, and we have one right now, so you can see we've got one hydrant out of service. And then you can kind of click through work orders that we're doing, service requests. But really, anything else, any other data you might be looking for related to the work we're doing out on a daily basis, and you let John know and myself, and happy to update Justice. It's just kind of a fun side project. And this is linked in my monthly staff report, so you can just click on it and sign in and access this.
Yeah, right now we want to keep a lot of our data locked. We don't want the public to have access to everything. But it is something in the future, if you guys are interested, is doing an open data portal. So Esri makes it very easy to share your data with the public. There are specific steps that you have to take to protect your base data, though, to make sure that you don't accidentally expose an endpoint that is editable. So there are particular workflows, but we can have an open data portal. So like City of Boulder and Boulder County both have really nice open data portals. And that's something that if Ned is interested, that we can do. And it doesn't just have to be GIS data as well. So City of Boulder puts out like commissioner emails as part of their open data, and that's in the ArcGIS realm of things. So that data gets uploaded, police data gets uploaded there, calls for service, drone requests is another data set. So really it's kind of anything that you want to share with the public that you want them to have free access to download when they want, or they can make their own maps, they can kind of do things on their own, which I really like empowering the public to be able to explore. It's their data, right? Like we are public servants, it's their information. We just need to make sure that we don't expose everything that might be a security risk. So then the next steps, so now we have the data in place, but we were missing some of our attributes. And so the goals for this year is to enhance those layers by making sure that we're doing the inspections. We know that what the pipe material is, we know the depth that is buried. We need to figure out all this information and slowly build it and add it into the system. So that'll be something that we'll be doing, and we just started working on linking documents so that people can click and see when they're in the field and they're saying, oh, okay, I need to know like what was the as-built for this water line here, and they could be standing looking at something and they don't know what they're seeing, so they got to click the as-built. That can be popped up on their tablet or on their phone, and they can take a look closer and inspect that data, or they can take a picture and add it to it and say, oh, this is actually where this thing is. I'm going to do the GPS and add a photo of it. So there's a lot of things that over time this data will just get better and better. Now that we have ownership of it, we've got a governance plan, we've got Andrew who's all in on this and kind of driving this forward. It's gonna be a really good thing for Nederland. And then the next steps, enhancing the work orders. So we talked about that a little bit. So there's some integrations that we can do so that you can handle a lot of different types of work orders. And we can even explore the ability for citizens to report a pothole and have that become a work order, or report a leak, and then that can automatically come in as a work order. So there's different things we can do there. But a lot of it is, again, focusing on automation. So Python scripts in the background, integrations with the different apps, making sure everything talks to each other. Last thing we want to do is have copies of data in different places that you can't join, and link it to the original asset. So just making sure that everything is buttoned up, neat and tidy, and automated as much as possible. Reducing as much free-form entry of data is also really beneficial. So yeah, just kind of working on that side of things. And then, yeah, I think I've kind of already covered these. So, yeah, this is the start, I think, of a really good thing for Nederland and being able to use data to have, to make better decisions, more informed decisions on things. And also just like a side note, I think I forgot to mention some things about my background, that I think are important to Nederland as well. So not only have I been in GIS for 15 years, I'm a computer programmer, a database administrator, and also I am involved in Boulder County Office of Disaster Management. So I'm the co-GIS lead on a team called ESF 26. So what happens when there's a wildfire, I get activated. So I get a ping on my phone, I have to status myself, and most of the time I go down to the Emergency Operations Center. So I'm in the part of things when we have an emergency. So last year was a very busy year. In April, I worked the Excel, the power shut off. So I was down there working that, making sure that we had maps going out to the public. And then I worked the 3 fires that we had this summer as well. So very long days and making sure that our maps are up to date. And I also done a lot of the automation behind the scenes there. But when I'm representing the city of Boulder at that table, I have a vested interest in making sure that Nederland's recognized. So a lot of times in these meetings, I'm speaking up for Nederland, and I used to work with Miranda, and I would text her from the Situation Room and let her know, like, hey, this is coming, like, this is something we need to get ready for messaging. So just so you know, that's an asset too, that I'm thinking of you guys in these circumstances and during these fires, and that you are being represented, at least by me in the GIS department. So just thought that might be good to know.
We appreciate that a lot. Really. It is good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. So, where are we hosting all of our GIS data now? Is it all in the Esri account or?
Yes, so it's all cloud-based and it's hosted in ArcGIS Online.
Servers back somewhere?
No, yeah, it's not on random computers, random hard drives, it's not consolidated, and we do have, that is our authoritative data sets.
And then you were talking about the input schemas, like, is that something you're like defining yourself, or like, is that kind of using some kind of standard GIS inputs?
So it's a mixed bag. So I did use some of Esri's water distribution model schemas, and then I expanded and altered them to meet the needs of Nederland. So Esri tries to make things pretty easy to start, but they don't always get it right for everybody, right? Like, we all have our own needs. We all have our different sizes of things or different manufacturers and things like that. So we need to be able to have those right drop downs for stuff. So yeah.
Cool, that's great. And I know you talked about like some public data endpoints, but how much do we have like sort of for just town staff in general? Just thinking like lots of the different departments could benefit from this data. Set kind of, is there sort of like a staff portal that you're thinking about, or what's?
So yeah, you can build an internal kind of like a hub. And so you can have your data sets categorized, and you can have pre-made maps and apps for internal staff. Right now, though, we have only a few logins available. Andrew's got 4 field workers, the main account, which is the administrator account, and we have 1 viewer. And I think that viewer account is what we're sharing right now with the Board of Trustees. So that viewer account only has access to what we're giving it access to. But we can expand that. And I know that there was talk when I initially started this project that Parks would be interested in this.
Because that was my first thought, is Parks.
Yeah, so Parks has a lot of assets that they need to map and track the condition of and help with work planning, thinking like the irrigation that we have and park benches. those are some of the things that we can add. Also, planting of like flowers and things, you know, track where those went.
Where noxious weed mitigation's been done, like all.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's actually a big thing. The city of Boulder's tracking, noxious weed in terms of wildfire prevention. So they're very interested in mapping that as fire breaks, where they're doing, noxious weeds.
You don't know Jen Sherry?
I do. Yeah, I know, I work really closely with her. She was at the city and then she went to the county, but, I still text and know her. She's great. Yeah. Small world.
Yeah. This is really exciting. I would love to see us be able to put all this data to use, like, you know, all throughout the town departments. It's really good.
Yeah, I think we were just getting our, you know, toes in the water here. And I think the main thing is if there's buy-in from the department head. So obviously Andrew is gung ho about this, and because of his excitement to this, the project is a success and we're actually doing things. So if we have buy-in, and somebody who wants to lead it, I'm there to like help assist and get it stood up. But you need to have an employee who's like, this is what I'm doing, I'm gonna take ownership and really push that project forward.
I know Josh recently expressed interest in tracking their vehicle maintenance, and it's really the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like streets and parks would both be high candidates to, you know, get somebody to get excited about it.
Yeah.
And then just to need more licenses in order to have more logins, or is that?
Yes, yeah, so.
Give this guy more.
Yeah, you know, and we can have a broader discussion about how to organize these logins, because right now the main administrator login is called Ned Water. And that's the administrator. And then you've got our field workers. So now we've got enough licenses that we're giving each person, and this is technically how Esri wants you to use their licenses. You're not supposed to share licensing. It's supposed to be per person. And so now we're finally at that level. So like Paige can log in and Paige can start editing data, and we can actually see what she's edited. So that's one thing. We have editor tracking, so I can see who created that and who was the last person to modify it. And so now you can have named accounts. It's like, oh, that was Paige. Paige was out there and, you know, she made that edit, and you can ask her to clarify something or whatever needs to be done. But we do need to look at, you know, maybe having a general administrator account, department heads and field staff. That might be a good way to organize it.
And how much do those licenses cost?
So the field crew is around $300 and some. I know I sent this in I think I sent an email to you just recently, Jonathan. So it ranges from $300 to $1,000, depending on what that account needs to do. So if it's a viewer, cheap. If it's a field crew and they need to use field maps, workforce, collector, survey 123, they need to have access to those items to be able to use their cell phone to enter data. That's one step up. I think that one's almost $500. I think it's like 400 and something. And then there's other levels where you have the capability to create data sets. So the field crew and the viewer can't create data. And then if you get higher, then that person can create the information, can control the schema, can control what the drop-down options are. They can make the maps, they can assign work to the field crews. So it starts to just kind of go up from there. So ideally, you don't want too many to have that high. You need one administrator, then you can have some others that have the ability to create the data, or create the maps and apps, and then you have your field crew, and maybe a couple viewers. If you have staff that you don't want to give them access to something that they can accidentally bump and move a water line or something. So you want to make sure you protect your data. So yeah, a mix of licenses usually makes sense.
And when you're saying 300, that's per year or per month?
Per year.
Per year? Sorry, things are getting choppy. Could you just repeat? It's per year?
Yes, annual cost.
Okay, thanks. And how much were the viewers license?
Let me just pull up my email. Okay. That's their mobile worker, and they've increased their prices. Mobile worker is $400 a year. They now have a new one called a contributor, which is $250 a year. Viewer is $125 a year.
All right, thanks.
And this is available on Esri.com. They have the ability to buy licensing, so you can just go to their little shop and you can see what they offer.
How have we thought about this integrating with development?
What do you mean?
Just, as we're trying to, is there an opportunity for this data for, some of the community development that we want to have happen, whether that's affordable housing or developers come and, potentially looking at the open data portal, like how does this intersect with community development?
Well, this is the base of it. So almost every municipality in the country uses Esri and enters their data in there to be able to do community planning, sub-community planning, and so on. City of Boulder uses Esri and Arc Urban, which is one of their urban planning licenses you can have, and you can do 3D modeling of sub-communities, and you can model the different buildings. You can look at demographics. There's a lot of information. I mean, the sky's the limit of what you can mix in there, but it's definitely the basis for development and community planning. And Esri also does have what they call the Living Atlas, which is basically the census data and the American Community Survey data. And they've already processed it for you and made it so that you can use your census block groups, or even you can draw your own boundaries. And it will provide you information on like demographics, how many vehicles there are. I recently worked on a project where I used Esri to do evacuation planning. So for Boulder County, now they can click on their evacuation zones and see how many people are there. They can see vehicles day and night. They can see how many commuters might be there. So they can determine how many police officers they need and at what intersections, basically by saying, I click on the map here and it's going to give me all this pre-planned information. So it's really, GIS is really the foundation for decision-making in local government.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lindsay?
I just put, I think, will work, so.
I'm not biased. Great work.
I just want to personally thank Lindsay. It's been, I feel so lucky we had to have a GIS professional help us through this, and she's very passionate about the town, and her invoices show that. She's been really cost effective for the town. And I really think it's something that we'll need continue to, there's a lot more work to go. So we have a lot more work ahead, and looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Thanks for sticking up for us in this situation. That we will go to our first action item of the evening. No, wait, I guess that's because I got screwed up for. Okay, our next information item is the Schindler elevator issues at the community center.
Mayor trustees, this is a pretty quick one. Our elevator was installed in 2006 and it's run pretty well at that time. It's starting to get to be a little long in the tooth though, and we've had to have some increased maintenance on it. Dawn wasn't able to join us this evening. She's a little under the weather. But over the last few weeks, I think the elevator's broken down 12 times or so. And so we were just a little bit concerned about it. In the past, we paid $350 a service visit just because it didn't need as much work. But it seems like it may make sense to go into a contract with Schindler to make sure that we can pick them up here when we need them to look at that thing. So what you have in your packet here, it's within her maintenance budget essentially, but we just want to switch from paying per service hour at $3.50 an hour to just a contract that gives us service calls for free and then 2 annual inspections for free as well. I think it's a much better use of town resources than you know, as we age that elevator, and there's no reason it can't continue to work for some time, but we're just gonna have to make sure that we have all the resources we need to do that. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? Clarifying questions? If not, we'll go to public comment. Wait, this is information item.
Yes.
I got screwed up on that one thing and I can catch up with myself. Okay, so any questions for Jonathan, this information item? Is this something that, Don can, and will basically take care of with their own budget?
Yeah, it can be covered with our maintenance budgets. I think ultimately, there's really no disruption in service or anything that needs to be considered special.
Any comments, questions? Tanya, Nicole?
No, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you both. Thanks, Jen. And with that, we'll go to our first action item.
Mayor and trustees, in your packet is a suggested resolution reaffirming the town of Nederland support for the Paris Agreement. The Board of Trustees previously expressed support for this agreement in 2017, recognizing the importance of global cooperation in mitigating climate change. Increasing, well, I guess in the ongoing political situation in Washington, we have been removed from that agreement, and this resolution just reaffirms your support for that agreement. I have attached a suggested resolution to the staff report.
Are there any questions on this resolution? Comments?
Make a quick comment.
Yeah.
You know, this was something that the town did do back in 2017. As soon as he who shall not be named removed us the first time from the Paris Climate Accords. And I know, you know, even back then, a lot of people were like, well, what does it mean for a town veteran to be signing something like this? You know, to be, or to, in this case, reaffirming our support for the Paris Climate Accords. And one of the things that came about from us doing it in 2017 was not only recognition for, you know, a small town stepping up and saying, hey, we're still all in, we're still going to do this, we still believe in the science, we still want to keep going down this path to, you know, carbon-free living. But it also helps support the nonprofits, the activists, those who are still putting up the fight to be able to point and say, look, there are still towns supporting us, not only the big cities that we're getting all the press, but small towns like Nederland. So, you know, this fight is not going anywhere. Climate change isn't going anywhere. We're going to be doing this for the next at least 2 years until things maybe change, hopefully. And 4 years until we can really get some change going. But in that time where we can, you know, do these little steps to affirm our support, affirm our belief in the science, and say that we're going to be supporting it, it helps not only the nonprofits, the other governments, the international scene say that there is still sanity in America.
Agreed.
No, you're just doing.
Yeah, November 2nd, I get emails kind of climate nerds group, and on November 2nd, I signed on a big petition, basically, just a letter to Donald Trump saying, and please don't exit it, but you know, whether you do or not, all these municipalities are going to continue on, and it was signed by hundreds of mayors of cities and towns, villages from around the country, if not thousands by the time they had it finished. Any other clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Now we'll go to public comment. There's no one in the room in the audience, so if anyone online has a comment, now's your time. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to board for discussion and a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2025-06, reaffirming the town of Netherlands supporting road replacement agreements.
Second.
And a motion and a second, please.
Trustee Miller,
Yes, please.
trustee Ty,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Yes.
trustee Maris,
Yes.
and trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion's approved.
Thanks,
Hey,
everyone.
Yeah, just real quick, everyone, for some, there's voices that are coming through on the mic sometimes, which makes it very difficult to hear everyone else that's speaking. I don't know if that mic is still on for public comment in the room, but if we could turn that off, that would be super helpful.
Hopefully that will improve things.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Andrew.
Troubleshooting. Next, our second action item is approval of contract with Civic Plus for our new website. Is that Macy?
No, that's Peter.
Peter.
Is, all right, my mic's right. All right, first of all, thank you for, letting me be part of this agenda tonight. We are coming to you with a proposal to migrate our website from its current platform under the Colorado Statewide Internet Portal Authority to Civic Plus. The reason for this is mostly twofold. Firstly, we have a 4-month deadline now to be in compliance with HB 21-1110 for online accessibility, which our current site kind of does, but not great. There's a lot of manual work that's involved on administration end to make sure that we are getting compliant, and that date is coming up very fast. Secondly, I don't know if you've tried accessing the website in the last 3 months or so, but there's about a 20% downtime right now. Our current website, which is the townofmaryland.colorado.gov, is a free site we got through SIPA back in 2021 to upgrade from our previous WordPress site, which at the time was a huge boon. But it is also a free site that's provided to us, and you kind of get what you pay for. We are kind of limited in what we can do with this site, and there's a lot of concern about just control over the back end, especially when it comes to accessibility. So having our own site has a lot of benefits, including making sure that we are up to the standards of the House bill, that we have kind of our own look to it. Right now, our site kind of looks like every other Colorado.gov website. More control, more legitimacy, and just more access to more tools. I met with 3 different vendors over the past 4 months or so, got a few quotes, and kind of at the end of it, John and I talked and kind of decided that Civic Plus was the best way to go. It has a lot of things built in that we are using through other platforms such as Engage Nederland, so we'd be able to kind of cancel that, which would help offset that cost, especially for the first year. There's also a secondary tool that we can use with it called Moncito, which is their ADA software, which would go kind of above and beyond their baseline and kind of help us in that migration. Oh,
really quick, Peter, and you're asking to include Moncito
yes,
right now to that, just
yes,
clear on that.
Yes, in this proposal, we would include Moncito for that first year to help us with that migration process. We probably wouldn't need it after that, which would go over our allotted budget, but it would also kind of be canceled out with the canceling of Engage Nederland. So we would see kind of an in-house sort. Also, we get a discount because we're already using Unicode, which is another one of their products. So overall, I just kind of encourage this to go forward because It's going to be something that the town uses for a long time. It's way more stable than our current website. And also, as part of this, I was able to secure a .gov domain for the town, so we can be a legitimate government, I guess. I don't know, or at least seem like it. It would kind of help with that legitimacy. It's definitely, it would be netherlandsco.gov instead of townofnederland.colorado.gov, which is a bit of a mouthful. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I listed out kind of the pros and cons of the 3 different platforms that I talked to, but I can answer any clarifying questions you have on this.
Questions, clarifying questions do we have from Peter?
Did I miss what sort of the development timeline looks like?
So it was quoted at 1 to 2 months, but it might be closer to 4, just as we migrate things over. The plus side is we are not going to lose our current website anytime soon, so if we kind of develop in the back end, and then when we're ready to launch, we can just
This was
let it
the
go.
last project I did in iOS Springs before I left. And it would have been faster if I hadn't left when I did, but it took them 7 months.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, 1 to 2, could be 4, sounds like 8.
Yeah. Peter's done a good job on the back end of indexing all the pages, and it is designed to take from our website and build them out that way. So if we can stay on top of it in the mapping and navigation kind of phases of building the website, I think we can do it pretty quick. I'm hopeful that we can get it up by July.
And the Moncito software would help in remediating our current documents on the website before uploading it, so they would be uploaded already accessible.
Peter, can you just, I know you've been indexing how many more documents we have left. Do you have a rough count?
It is over 300. Some of them I can do like 30 or 40 a day, like any of our 1-page resolutions. Some of them I'm currently going through our current 2025 budget book. I've been working on that for about a week and a half. So it's really kind of hit or miss on what documents are quick and which are slow. So having this software will be a huge boon and give us that peace of mind to make sure we're not, cutting it right down to the wire.
There are
Hey.
no questions. .gov, I mean, did you get us?
NetherlandsCO.gov. Maybe there was someone from online?
Yeah, hey Peter, this is Nicole. How exactly does the ADA compliance work? Like, let's say they identify a document that's not within ADA compliance. What is this company doing in order to bring it into compliance?
So there's 2 different processes. First, it would kind of lay out what is out of compliance similar to our current PDF software and let me know. We also have access to actual human beings that would then look at it and kind of reevaluate or recreate the document to be in compliance, depending on what's wrong with it, which is currently what I'm doing manually right now.
So the company itself is providing the people to change the document?
Yes, I believe so.
Is that ADA compliant? No, that's like, you can just tell Groom,
Yeah.
tell me what's wrong with it.
Yeah, the problem is with, the programs can only do so much. And each document is different, so it needs that kind of human eyeball on it to make sure it's actually doing the thing that you want it to do.
We really need that tool in this initial go through, and part of it is we have a lot of historic documents too that are copied, and then signatures are also the thing that causes some of this concern. And so I think likely the Moncito would fall off as we get our library completely updated. And then, obviously Peter will still be doing some of this work too, but I think the website also has ADA tools built in, so you can check elements of the website as you're building it. And then they build it out like the framework, and then you're just basically, it's like a, it's kind of like WordPress style from that point
Right.
forward.
Right, and it'll give us like on formatting and everything for ADA compliance, but is there a certain limit, Peter, in terms of how many documents or whatnot that they're going to amend? Because
Yeah.
what a lot of municipalities are doing is they're pulling those documents off because they don't meet ADA compliance. So I'm trying to figure out, like, is this an all-in cost for them, or could there be the potential that, oh, whoops, we have additional documents that we need work on, and therefore it's an additional cost?
There is a limit. I don't seem to have that in front of me right now, so I'll have to find that again. But as part of my initial inventory, I also kind of put together which ones need to be on the website, which ones can go up later, and which ones we just don't need at all.
Here, the other thing is Moncito is partnered with Common Look, which is one of the other really big PDF ADA accessibility checkers, and they have like a lot of resources for maintaining accessibility.
Can you remind me what the budget was that we were hoping for?
On the website?
Yeah.
You have the,
This is pretty close to it. Oh, sorry. This is pretty close to it. We built it looking at like that kind of $5,000 range. The other thing that's nice about Civics Plus is they have other things that we do that we could use later, and then there's discounts depending on how you do that. So for instance, video streaming, they have a really good platform for that. But this is pretty common. Like there's free municipal websites and there's really expensive ones, and then there's like this range. So we're kind of right in the middle of where you might expect to be. It's pretty much, there's another really big platform called Granicus, and it's a little bit more pricey, but Granicus and Civics Plus are probably the two most widely used municipal website providers.
Yeah, but just to be clear, we didn't actually ask, this pricing isn't for the video platform for Civic Plus, correct?
It's $5,000 for the initial cost, $4,700 for the yearly cost. And then we're asking for that Moncito tool set for the first year, which is $4,500. But this also allows us to cancel Engage Nederland, which is $6,400. And then with the 10% discount, it's almost a wash.
Yeah, we would.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to clarify because you had mentioned the video streaming platform, but that's not something that we've got baked into these costs, correct?
Future, but not today.
Be a future consideration. Fine.
Right. Okay. I was gonna say, because otherwise you walked away with a steal of a deal if those costs were in there. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at, for this initial year, $6,930.20 with the Moncito software. But we'd also be able to cancel the Engage Nederland, which is $6,400. So yeah, we'd see very little difference in our current budget.
Sorry, I'm getting back to it. Wasn't it 8,000?
That's after this first year.
That's after the first year? Right, okay.
More questions for public comment?
Real quick question. Like you were saying, maybe we get a lot of this ADA compliance stuff done in the first year. Are we locked into having to renew the ADA compliance piece year after year?
No, we don't need it.
Okay. But as a first year, like getting things kind of set up and making sure that we're in compliance by, the deadline, I think, what is it, got pushed out to 2026 now. But okay.
Yeah, so it's still July 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually those ADA once you do that, as long as you don't change underlying styles and stuff, it should all get.
We're gonna do some training at the staff level too, to make sure that we're building the right kinds of documents.
There's gonna be a lot of training. Having gone through some today, it's like, oh, these are all very different.
Yeah, and I think some sort of policy around when we do create these type of documents moving forward, just so that we can remain in compliance.
Agreed.
Any other clarifying questions or comments before we go to public comment? With a public comment, there's no one in the room, so if anyone online has a public comment, now's your time. Not seeing anyone, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for discussion and motion. My only comment is that it seems like this is the best choice of the threes.
Yeah, if money was not a consideration, I would definitely push for streamline, but it is, as you can see, kind of the outlier price wise.
Peter. Thanks for doing all the legwork on tracking this down, and I move to approve the staff recommendation for upgrading the town's website to Civic Plus, adopt the www.nederlandco.gov domain, and direct staff to finalize necessary contracts and present a launch timeline to the board.
Second.
Good motion, second. Lacy?
Trustee Larson,
Yes.
trustee Mears,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Ty,
Stepped out.
our Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ty was not present for this.
Trustee Ty? Yes.
Oh, he just stepped back in the room. We are voting on the approval of the new Civic Plus website.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Thanks a bunch, everybody. That will go up to our third item of the evening. The consideration of approval of non-call agreement with JVA for water and sewer. Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor. JVA served the town as our on-call engineer for several years, and they've completed a lot of projects for you. To continue the successful partnership, we recommend approving a new professional services agreement with JVA. This agreement allows the town to engage with JVA on engineering services on an as-needed basis with individual projects authorized through separate letter agreements. JVA has proposed a 10% discount for ongoing services to the town. And under this agreement, JVA can proceed with work as authorized through purchase order executed by John, our town administrator. And then along with this agreement, we're proposing 2 task orders here. The first being for design of distribution improvements around the community center, as we discussed previously, and also sanitary sewer improvements. We have a problem with infiltration and inflow in our system, where during runoff, our inflow and flow to the wastewater plant can more than double, which does limit our capacity. The town has had tremendous success lowering infiltration through large scale sewer pipelining and point repair projects. And this project would be JVA taking the inspections we've done to date and creating shovel-ready contract papers to get quotes from contractors to make those repairs on our sanitary sewer system. And I have just realized that I did not propose resolution language. My apologies for that. So I'm looking at Attorney Manson, just threw her a curveball here. I'm not sure.
If the board of trustees wants to approve this agreement, they could just do it by motion.
Okay, great.
50 lashes.
Thank you, that's it.
We'll clarify any questions. Do you have, Andrew?
I know you said this, but can you just explain what the difference is between what our current arrangement is right now and this new agreement?
I believe this is a formalization of our current working relationship.
Yeah, it's basically what we're doing right now, except for tips and SMS. Those are separate contracts, but this is how we do just general engineering work.
Okay, so it's not like we have them on retainer or something like that. I mean, is that something that would make more sense given what we're asking of them?
We have an operating budget line item for on-call engineering where, you know, we've got a question that an engineer needs to answer, that we can just call them up and they bill us for that. These are specific projects in where I think even if we had a retainer, they would want a specific agreement for a specific project.
Okay, so this is like, not just like on call, this is like for this.
Yeah.
It may, on that on-call, just depending on where and how they're working, but that could be like, maybe Rick sends them something to look at, civil drawings or something, or, you know, there could be a lot of reasons that we talk to them about different projects happening. This would be more specific for these projects that you guys just heard about. The other thing to note, there may be, like, some of these projects we might be able to get grants for them. If we can still use those, you know, for reimbursement for these, but that's something that we have to keep looking at and keep chasing that money.
Why are they giving us 10% discount?
I guess I would answer that as there's overhead expenses being a consultant. You have overhead expenses of proposing on projects, marketing budgets. And so I think in return for us not asking them to submit proposals every single time in competition with other engineering firms every single time, that they're reducing the rates because it's more efficient for them and ultimately more efficient for us as well.
That makes sense.
Mayor Billy, I gotta take off early tonight, so I'm gonna drop off and I gotta go take care of some stuff.
Yeah, no worries. Any clarifying questions here? Are you good?
Not at all, and yeah, at least for this one.
Okay, thanks. Excellent. Any other clarifying question? So they're kind of our on-call folks, but in it, they're also baking in, or, you know, clarifying two specific projects with estimated costs. So it's kind of like, you know, these folks are going to use in the on-call, and here's two things we know we're gonna already plan for, and here's kind of the plan and the cost.
Exactly.
For those estimated costs, if they exceed those estimated costs, do we get notified when we're getting close to that?
Yeah, they ensure us they can deliver on both projects under budget with one caveat on the design work for the community center. They estimated, I think, $9,000 for survey work. But if the scope of the project's larger than expected, that means a surveyor has to physically go out and survey more. That could be an extra cost, but they've assured us, other than that, they'll be able to complete the projects under the budget given.
Any other questions before we go to public comment? Now we'll go to public comment. There's no one in the room, so we can go ahead and go straight to folks online. If you have any public comment or choice to contract with JVA, now's the time. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for, motion, discussion of the motion.
Move to approve the town entering into a professional services agreement with JVA as laid out. Second.
Okay, we have a motion in a second, Macy.
Trustee Ty,
Yes.
trustee Maris,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling.
Yes.
If the motion's approved.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
If anyone needs a break, we can take one, or people could just take their, keep going.
Approve.
All right.
Second.
I need
That was good.
No,
All
you're
right,
good.
Give out.
Okay, we are gonna move into our discussion item this evening, consideration of the adoption of the IBC International Building Code. Brett, and I know we have one guest, Shauna, on Zoom online.
Yes, and Kylie Flynn is our new Safe Build official. So I'm gonna kind of give you guys some background. I will have Kylie run through a presentation because we're really looking at, does town jump to 2024 or do we jump to 2021, moving 3 years up as we have in the past? And then I'll kind of bring it back and ask for that direction again. So we've kind of had some early discussions so I could bring this forward to you guys to really get some direction. We've been talking with the Nederland Fire Protection District, town staff and Safe Built to kind of discuss, do we go 2021 or 2024? Just to give you some background, we're currently on 2018 building codes. And in the past, town has typically just gone up to the next 3 years and has kind of always been 3 years behind. And so really after having these discussions with Nederland Fire Department and Safe Built, town staff is really looking to go to 2024. But obviously with your direction. I did want to make a note, Boulder County just adopted 2021 building codes, and in the next 6 months, their goal is to go ahead and adopt 2024.
When did they adopt 2021?
2021, I think it was, I want to say Andrew said about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then their goal is within the next 6 months to go to, I think that's what it was anyways. I'd have to double check with him. He's not on tonight. He'll be on moving forward because there's a lot of fire stuff coming up the line that's going to be required by state. So he gave kind of like a little sheet in there, but so really the goal of this is just to align something that I've heard from contractors is they're working anywhere from 2012 to, soon going to be 2024. And so we'd like to try to get aligned and really not having them run through all these different years. And another important note is that the board can choose to adopt portions of building code if they find it does not fit for Nederland. In the past, we've done like amendments to primary codes and things along that lines. I preemptively reached out to some of our builders within town. Some of just our 3 main builders, I won't name them here, but just kind of give some feedback. One of them said, really doesn't have much an opinion about this, figures codes are going to get enacted at some point anyways, and we'll just learn as he goes. He continued to share that houses have been good enough for quite a while and they don't need to get any better, but there's always going to be a code updates and they're always going to become more expensive. Again, Kylie will kind of go over like what those cost differences look like. Another contractor I thought was important or just wanted to share feedback with you is that they said a lot of code changes don't really have a major impact on them. He did share that maybe there should be some aggregated roof changes, but he largely just views code updates as a natural evolution. He did, however, encourage town to make sure applicants are aware of fire guidelines. So that's a really big educational piece I think that will need to happen this year as this process starts to go on. So we will be looking for, again, Kylie's gonna give her presentation, is just if the board wants us to pursue 2021 as we have done in the past, or 2024, after kind of hearing some of these key differences. Again, staff and fire department and Safe Built are really recommending that 2024. But obviously you guys have the final decision. I just kind of want to go over some next steps for some of you guys who are newer to this board, and this is also a new process for me, is we'll get direction from you guys. There will need to be some kind of building code administrative committee formed. In the past, it's typically consisted of the town administrator, the deputy zoning administrator, which is now the community planner, a fire marshal, public works manager, and our sustainability coordinator, of course, with the help of Attorney Madison and Safe Built. The committee, again, will work with Attorney Madison and Safe Built to develop the draft ordinance for 2021 or 2024 building codes. There will be a time period for community feedback. After the feedback, the team will make changes to amendments or add any amendments to the code that's not consistent with Nederland based on feedback received. We will introduce this ordinance to the Board of Trustees. Additional discussion at a second meeting if needed. There will be a first reading of the draft ordinance, a second reading of the draft ordinance, and then an implementation date. So it's a very long process, which is why we're starting now. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, two things. And maybe you said this, I didn't quite grasp it, but about how long is estimated months?
Do you know how long it's taken in the past? Yes.
I don't know, maybe 6 months. I'm totally guessing. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That seems, I mean, I was part of the last one, and so it seems about right.
Yeah, and I think whatever's most appropriate based on feedback and, you know, not rushing this, but making sure it's done appropriately.
Would you say is in the initial or the group
In the past, it's been the community planner, town administrator, fire marshal, public works manager, sustainability coordinator, and then Safe Built, and working with Attorney Madison for like ordinance.
there were people from the planning commission who the last time.
Yeah, that's something, since I haven't been around, I don't know. And so, yeah, also looking for direction on if there should be more members to that committee or who we should be looking at. Definitely would love that feedback as well. In the meantime, I can go ahead and pass it over to Kylie so you guys can get some real in-depth information, and then we can kind of bring it back for questions and discussion if you guys feel that's appropriate. Okay, cool. Kylie, I'll pass it on to you.
Sounds good. I wanted to start by introducing myself a little bit because I haven't had the pleasure of meeting everyone there tonight. And if I could have been, I would have been there in person as well. My name's Kylie Flynn. I'm a building official with Safe Built. I am taking over for Dan Wester in this position. I know you have previously worked with him in the past. I have 12 years of experience in the building industry and 20 certifications with ICC and lots of experience in different roles throughout the building department and industry. I worked heavily with ICC with the International Code Council as well as the Colorado chapter as well. I also tonight have Shauna Monzingo here, who's a good friend of mine. She owns Mozingo Code Group and is a very good energy code expert. And so I thought she would be a wonderful asset here to have tonight to help answer any questions you might have. And she's also assisted with the code adoption in the past for Nederland. I understand from Dan Wester that he had actually already drafted the 21 version of the code updates with Shauna's assistance. So we've already done some of that legwork if we were to move to the 24 codes. I did provide to you a quick slideshow. There's a lot of information on it, but I'd be glad to go through that with you all as far as just some significant changes from the 2018 codes to the 24 international codes. I don't know, Britt, if that is something that we want to share, or I can briefly go through each one. We certainly don't have to. I can go through kind of some of those significant changes really fast.
The significant ones, do you want me to share screen or did you want to share screen? It's totally up to you.
I'll have you share screen. I actually added a bunch of notes to mine so that I wouldn't forget. Thank you.
The big thing we want to know Kylie and Shauna, is like the realities of jumping from 2018 to 2021 versus the realities of jumping from 2018 to 2024.
Yep.
Thoughts on, costs, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I was just saying, in these slides, I put a lot of information. I tend to go overboard with thoroughness because I want to express a lot of those changes to you. But we certainly can highlight the cost impacts because I know that is going to be a big impact as far as consideration for sure. Some of the basics I'll just quickly go through then to make this fast. From the 2018 to the 21, there were significant changes. The cost, as far as cost impact, the significant changes occurred more from the 2018 to the 21 code change. And then from the 21 to the 24, they kind of almost dropped in cost impacts because of changes that were made to help with aligning and better aligning the codes with industry practices and amongst the codes. So the major impact is actually from the 2018 to the 21 codes. As far as specific numbers for you from the 2018 to the 24, that would be a large jump. And so thinking about the cost changes between the 2018 to the 24, it's hard to say because so much has changed between cycles. Just for, a number so that you can kind of have an idea in your head, from the 2018 to the 21 version of the codes, an average home might be a cost change of around $2,200 increase. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then from the 21 to the 24, it kind of drops off. There's really not much of a cost impact, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Not cost impact. There's not a significant increase in cost because of the changes that were made to improve the codes for better alignment amongst the codes. The biggest changes, go ahead.
Just sorry, I just want to stay with you. You said 2,200 to go from 2018 and 2021 for
Yes.
new home?
That's just a rough guess. And I'm pulling these numbers from the National Association of Home Builders. There is an article. I've supplied that to Britt for you all if you want to read it. I was just talking to Shauna about this before. It is kind of a confusing document to compare because there's a lot of numbers there. There's so many factors in the building codes, and trying to come up with an actual cost analysis amongst 11 code books in addition to changes at a state level is pretty tricky. But that's a basic number for you for comparison from the 18 to the 21, yes.
Okay. And then kind of a wash for even every, savings, quote unquote, going from 21 to 24.
Yeah, and I think I even put a note in here. Again, these are from that article from the NAHB, but I think there's even a study stating that there was almost a decrease in cost from the 21 to the 24. And a lot of that, again, is just some of that clarification on code sections that was made. It aligns better with industry practices. For example, there was significant changes from the 21 codes to the 24 codes in regard to different energy paths of compliance. There's significant changes from the 21 to the 24 in regard to deck construction and structural construction. And so a lot of those things better align with industry practices, which it would reduce some costs from those two cycles. There's also some significant changes that I'm excited about for Nederland within the 24 code adoption. There's some code changes in the 24 IRC, which is the residential code, that has additional verbiage and kind of regulation for stackable dwelling units, which is something that definitely does occur in Nederland. And so I thought that was great to have some better alignment and clarification when those situations arise. As you know, I'm sure there's changes at a state level for accessory dwelling unit requirements that will be potentially coming down the line here. And some of the code requirements and clarifications in the 24 help align how to properly construct something like that prescriptively. And when you're constructing something and designing something prescriptively, it means a cost change as far as decreasing cost when you don't have to hire a design professional to build or construct and design some of those features. So I think the alignment with the industry practices will certainly provide a cost decrease to the 24. And rather than go through every single one of these kind of bullet points, is there any specific questions that you have at this point for any of those major changes? There's one piece to any change right now to, in the state of Colorado, adopting any code would mean that you would be adopting the model electric solar code. And it also has impacts as far as other state legislation, such as the WUI code bill that has just, and I think it hasn't passed yet. Is that correct, Shauna? Yeah.
Yes, it will go into effect in October.
Okay. Yeah, so adopting any code, whether we went to the 21 or the 24, would mean automatically having to adopt certain state regulations. What else? The energy code, specifically in the 24 too, has additional verbiage and clarification, which I think also provides a good cost decrease from the 21 to the 24 by allowing different paths of compliance and more significant alignment, or it more aligns with the, again, industry practices and construction that's actually occurring and updates in industry practice and construction. Shauna, is there anything you would like to add? You're certainly the energy expert with everything. I'm sure there's more.
I think you've done a great job. I do believe that, you know, when we put the two codes side by side, the 21 versus the 24, there is definitely a higher cost to go to the 21 than the 24. And so if you had to decide between the two, you know, the 24 would probably reduce costs, or at least break even on costs and not add additional cost. The big cost, like you say, Kylie, is going to the 2021. And I would also say that with the state requirements, the state legislation that is in play right now, that mandates anytime you change a code, you have to adopt the state model electric energy, or the model electric ready code, and you have to at least be on the 2021, which gives us a little bit of leniency that if you want to adopt the 2021 and there's some things in there that you don't like in the energy code, we do have a little bit of leeway to amend them, because you just can't amend to be worse than the 2021. So there are a couple things that the state has agreed we could amend out of the 2024, as long as we just never go worse than the 2021. So there's a little bit of leeway there that we have right now that we won't have in a year when the 2024 becomes the minimum code. Right now, the 2021 is the minimum that you can do. And so there's some good flexibility right now if we do it right now.
So if we go to, if we were to go to 2021, we don't have to take the new electric code? We do either way?
Yeah.
Either way.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like making people really up amperage on the like a new home? Is that, I might be confused on that.
The new state electric ready, solar ready code requires three things. One, for buildings to be solar ready, which is really not a physical requirement of any kind, just to make sure that if your roof is facing the right direction, you need to make sure that it has been sized correctly to hold solar panels in the future if somebody wants to put them on, so there's not a bunch of vents and there's, you know, that there's a place for them. And for the solar panel has a dedicated circuit on it. And then, I mean, the electric panel. The EV ready would say that every single family dwelling that has a dedicated parking spot would require EV ready space, which doesn't mean you put in an EV charger, but you have to, you know, put the conduit and get it ready so that if somebody wants to start installing it, they can. And then there's electric ready, which just means that for every appliance, if you put in a gas appliance, you also have to put in an electric outlet and maybe the space for an electric appliance so that if somebody wanted to switch out from gas to electric, they don't have to jump through as many hoops later on down the road. It costs more to do it after the fact than during construction. So that's the new state code that will require that. The cost for that is really in the electric ready part. Because putting in all of those outlets and running the wires to all of it will cost more than the EV ready or the solar ready, which will be minimal. But the state has had Department of Energy and Pacific Northwest National Labs evaluate the costs for them, and they've determined the cost to be right around $1,200 for a new home and about $2,200 for an apartment unit. But that's a state mandate. We don't have really any say so on whether we go to that or not.
Yeah, so I have to do that no matter what, but just to get a sense, like, but how about electric panels? Are they going to have to be, you know, bigger, more expensive, like ready to take on more load?
I mean, it feels like it, right? It feels like it because you have to size to an all electric, even if you don't use all electric. So you do have a panel. Most of the time we're finding the average panel that's installed right now is between 200, 225, 250 amp already, which seems to be right now has been okay. Of course, it depends on your amenity loads and some different things on how much you want in your house. If you want 5 fireplaces or, you know, 3 hot tubs. But so some of that is dependent. But what we're finding is, I think, more of the concern really that we don't really have a good argument about because it's a state requirement is the fact that you do have this panel that's dedicated to this use that you might not ever use because you're going to have a gas furnace, but you had to size it for this. And so you have this wasted space out there if nobody ever decides to convert to electric. But really, I don't know what we could do about that, really.
Yeah, probably nothing. It was just good to kind of get your opinion of the reality of that for.
Yeah.
I have a question about the EV hookup setup. I mean, is that even for an ADU or is there a square footage sort of like for bigger houses or is it for any building that you do that would have a car?
I believe it says that it's any single family dwelling that has a dedicated spot. So it would be the main house. And then if you have an apartment building, it's a percentage based on the number of parking spaces and that sort of thing. But if it's just a single family dwelling, it says every single family dwelling has to have at least one.
So if you had an ADU in your backyard, well, and you had a parking spot for that ADU, that would not count then? You could still just have the one for the house.
I believe so, because I think the language says that you just have to have at least one.
And what if you were building like tiny homes, like say the town wanted to create a tiny home village where, you know, we're talking under 500 square feet or something. Each one of those would also have to be equipped for that.
Yep. Yes. There's not a size limit.
No. Okay.
That's helpful. Thanks. Any other clarifying questions for Kylie or Shauna? Or Brett?
Well, Do you have like a PowerPoint of the changes between the two? Like what, like it's like an easy way to visualize it, or do we have to just basically read both of them and find the differences?
I did put together a PowerPoint for you all. There's just so much information in there that I didn't know if you would want to hear all of it.
Well, I might want to read it later because this is just a discussion. Is there any way that it
Yeah.
could be like sent to us so we could review it?
Absolutely.
This is Britt. We have the PowerPoint attached, but I will send you the extra materials and the PowerPoint as well to the Board of Trustees, just so you guys can get it outside of like the large packet that we had tonight.
So
Yeah, that'd be great. Just, like review it at leisure.
Yeah.
85 to 193 of at least the version of the packet I have, but
Yeah,
I
I'll
guess-
still send them
I
separate.
think Tanya was asking, is there any kind of visuals on 21 versus 24? Is that what you're asking, Tanya?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I know like last time we did this, we did as a Board of Trustee, like made some amendments to what we, so that, you know, like, I think for like certain additions that were smaller than a certain size, we didn't have to apply it. I can't remember exactly, but so I suppose we can still do stuff like that. Like adopt it, but not one part of it, that kind of thing.
I think that we did that. So we already did your 2021 because we thought that with Dan, I had already done your 2021 amendment package. We thought you were going to do the 2021 last year, and then it didn't happen. When we did that, we took your existing amendments and I just went through everything that you have adopted for all the codes and said, okay, you don't need this anymore because it's already covered in the code. We need to carry this forward. This is specific to Nederland and they want to keep carrying this forward. So Dan and I went through all of that. And then we also took stuff that was already in the 2024 that we thought was really good or fixed an error that was in the 21 and brought it into your 21 adoption. So even if you go the 2024, we're 3/4 of the way there because a lot of that work has already been done on all the codes. And so there, you don't lose those amendments that you guys had said that you want specific for you. We carried them forward unless they were already covered in the code. So you're not going to lose any of that. But
well, thank you.
But so what we would do is just, I mean, what we did and have done in the past is I go through, make all these recommendations for you based on your goals and things that we've carried forward and things that we've done. And then we give it to you and then you go through there and say, no, we want to amend this or no, we don't. That's how we've done it in the past, I would imagine. Kylie, that's how we still envision it. So that I would do the majority of the work for you, which is free to you. It doesn't cost you anything for me to do that. To go through and update your code with the recommendations, and then you get to go through it and your committee that you're putting together and decide what you like, what you don't like, if you want to add or take away. But I at least get you to that starting point.
And something to be aware of too, when any change is made for an adoption with the state requirements, we won't be able to amend if we were to adopt the, for example, 21 energy code, we wouldn't be able to amend anything to make it less restrictive than it already is because it's a state mandate. But right now we have this really perfect, cool time frame where if we were to adopt the 24 energy code, we would have the ability to amend it to be in alignment with the 21 if we wanted. It just couldn't be any less restrictive than the 21. So there's a small window here where we still can make some amendments that are less restrictive as far as going to the 21. So it's a nice time frame right now to have that ability to adopt these at on your own terms for as much as possible. And then you can clarify me if I'm wrong, Shauna, the model code, we can't make any amendments to that. It's just a mandated adoption.
You can make some minor amendments. You can't make it less restrictive. You can make minor amendments to make it work better for you. I've seen some of that happen. They have published a new version of the model code that I would bring those amendments that the state has, the people that have been using it for a while have put in their feedback. So the state is going to modify it in their next version that's coming out in 2026. But we could bring those, I already know what those modifications are. We could bring those over. But other than that, yeah, you can't do a lot to
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
And Shauna, do you mind letting us know, because this is awesome, this is free of charge to municipalities like us and, you know, larger and smaller, but, we don't have to pay you, but just let folks know who does pay you for this.
The state of Colorado.
Right, because they're trying to basically get the municipalities to come up to where they want the whole.
Because when that state legislation went in that required this new model code to go into effect, the part of the legislation also said that they have to provide technical assistance and training to get people to those newer code requirements. And so it was part of the legislation. They had to set aside so much money to help people get these new codes adopted since it was going to be a mandate.
Thanks for clarifying that. More clarifying questions for Callie or Shauna or Britt before we go to public comment? Okay. With that, we'll go to public comment. There's no one in the room, so if you're online, if you have a comment, now's the time. Hearing and seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. We are really looking for, I guess, Britt and Callie and Shauna. Just what what do you need from us?
Really want to know, do you guys want us to pursue 2024? And as they were talking about some of these amendments, we can make, kind of start going those routes and bringing that forward. Or go, 2021. Also, if any feedback on what you would like that subcommittee to look like for, individuals who have been involved longer than I have, would love that feedback. So we could start moving forward with creating that subcommittee and really just pursuing this and moving it forward and bringing it back and getting that feedback. So this will come before you many times, but really just looking for which year are we going with committee. And if anyone has anything else to add. So main things for us.
Okay. Board members, trustees, if you could give us your thoughts on whether you see value in going to 2021 or 2024, and then your thoughts on construction of this subcommittee working group.
Seems like 2024 is the way to go, given the recommendations and the discussion tonight. In terms of the committee, I don't really have any strong feelings about who would be on the committee, but the list of who has been involved in the past sounds like a good place to start. And then I know Mary Billy mentioned that people from the planning commission were on it last time too, so just adding some individuals from the planning commission seems like a great idea.
Great. Thank you, Tierney. Other trustees?
I agree with Tierney. Sense. Sneeze.
Great, thanks. Hi. You're good. I know. Subcommittee.
Like who we would put on it, if we have an idea who we would put on it? Is that what you're asking me? Sorry.
I mean, right now it's gonna be probably, town staff.
Right.
Safe builds, likely Kylie, Shauna will at least consult and
Jocelyn.
John.
I mean, I think,
Andrew, Jocelyn.
Yeah.
I think, at a staff would be good. Sure.
Wait, is Cass already on it?
Cass will be on our subcommittee.
Okay.
So she and the plan would be to get, feedback from SAB and kind of keep that going with her
Okay,
in there.
well then, that's, yeah.
Just a clarifying question, Mayor Pelly. In the past, has it just been whoever's had the time and the planning commission?
Yeah, I mean, I did, I can't remember who else, whether Roger, or maybe it was just me.
Okay.
Cause I was kind of in this kind of work, and I'm not kind of, but I am in this kind of, it was like Rick Hendrickson. And it was Miranda, it was Miranda, Cynthia, it was,
Okay.
and Safe Bill, definitely, and maybe Sean, I can't remember Sean, I didn't know you then. So it was at least that, I feel like there were
Okay.
others, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But I mean, it's voluntary
Yeah.
on that level, so I mean, yeah, that's what it was.
Just seeing if there's an interest. Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Tanya and Nicole?
Sounds like you guys are leaning towards 2024 to start researching that more. Is that right? Yeah, it's really. I just don't hear it that far. I kind of, I agree. I suppose we might as well. I'm curious to hear from more from the public and from builders how this is going to impact, like if we wanted to have affordable housing, how that would raise the cost per square footage per home. But it sounds like we don't really have a choice in the sense that, we have to keep moving forward with our building codes. So I guess it is going to be more expensive. They always are. Every time there's more stuff that costs a lot of money. So it just makes it harder and harder to create affordable housing. But it sounds like there's nothing we can do about it. So might as well just go for 2024.
I will say that if they do affordable housing and you have to follow HUD, you're gonna have to be on the 2024 unamended. So they probably are a little bit more more restrictive than
Okay.
you would be able to be with your just regular code.
Okay, thanks for that.
Cost of operations and maintenance and utility bills for if it's affordable housing, one thing that needs to be affordable is month-to-month costs for the person living in the house. That's a good point, Jonathan. Generally, the affordable housing is as rigorous as can be.
The only thing I'll add is, I'm fine going to 2024 and doing a little bit more investigation. I would be interested to understand, like, if there become additional policies that we can implement. We already have some affordability measures in place, such as a density. The result of this, if there are other policies that we can implement in order to offset some of those costs. So I'd be interested in that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I know the big thing, like when we did this before in 2018, was like Rick Hendrickson was really like getting everything going on the deal with fire. And which was cool, but we were able to get kind of a, remember if it's square footage or percentage, but like below a certain amount, you didn't have to put sprinkler systems, because that's really such an expensive thing up here. It's much cheaper than in the valley, but up here it's really expensive because the contractors all charge them.
Yeah, and Andrew Dawson will be much more involved. He's still doing a lot of digging to figure out what's some of these state regulations for fire and things like that. So I think there will be more coming. Obviously, that's a big expense, is the fire world. So I think more will be coming from that. And yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind and still keep people in the loop. And I did want to mention, we did preemptively reach out to 3 builders. And I think the builders kind of seen it the same way, as this has to happen regardless. Some of them are just saying, like, watch out for these items. And so I think it'll be good for us to keep digging with them on what their concerns are, if we can do anything there. But obviously with some of these mandates and restrictions, we can't. So yeah, we'll continue to keep digging with them and making sure they feel comfortable as well.
That sounds good. Sounds great. Nicole, did you have anything else to add to that, or you?
Nope, I'm good.
I mean, I was gonna, I guess 2024 is a good way to go, and we're getting these estimated costs, Tanya, from NHB, and it's as good as they can do, just kind of doing the national averages. It's gonna be higher. So higher because of just where we are, but a couple thousand, few thousand is better than tens of thousands. So it is interesting how they kind of tried to correct coming from 21 back to 24. So jump from 2024 is maybe in some ways a less expensive jump, because they maybe saw some errors made, well, not errors wrong, but just some things that maybe weren't realistic in the real world. So I'm for 2024. I think, offering this to the PC and seeing who we want to join from there, maybe the BZA. And maybe the builder, I don't know if that becomes like conflict of interest or whatever, but like, it would be interesting to have a builder or two. Like when we did this before, we had a builder, John Baumhofer was on board, was on the BOT, so we had kind of someone in from that realm making, as a final decision maker, so it's be nice to have someone on that subcommittee possibly from.
I know we have a builder on the NDDAs, so I feel like that's probably where that conflict would maybe not happen. I don't know, but,
Yeah, we could ask.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew could decide.
yeah. Okay, that's clear direction for me. I think this gives us stuff to work on and.
BZA to ask the BZA.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate you guys taking the time and having this hard conversation. I'll just keep going from here, so.
Hard? This wasn't hard. This was good. We're good.
Kylie, thanks for your time, Shauna.
You're so
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Appreciate your work on this, of work, so have a good
Thanks
night.
for having us. You as well.
Thanks, everyone. With that, we'll go to our second discussion item of the evening, the BOT NDDA work session. And John?
Yes. Document up here. Mayor and trustees, we've been talking about for a few months now, having a combined work session with the Downtown Development Authority. I think there's a couple of things that have come up with both boards that I think y'all would like to talk about. A couple of things that have come to the top of the mind are their bylaws. It's time to update and make sure they're formally adopted. Some of their finance policies and procedures and how we integrate with the town between the two organizations. And then just making sure that as they develop their what's called plan of development, which is a statutory document for them, and how we develop our strategic plan to make sure those are aligned. So that as we go into budgeting processes and thinking about development of infrastructure, that all of that work is tied together. The DDAs had a meeting and they proposed the date of March 11th. That works particularly well for them because it's before their next meeting. I wanted to bring this forward as kind of an idea for you and see if that would work for you, because that is an off night for you. And so I think, you can definitely, as the Board of Trustees, say this, another night would work better. We could put this with their regular meeting too and handle it sort of like we handle executive sessions, like a work session before the meeting, if you wanted to do that.
Except it would be an executive session.
Right, it would just be a regular work session.
Be a special meeting.
Yeah, I think you might, one of the things that might be nice about having it on an off night is you could have a little bit more in-depth conversation that could last a little bit longer. But I just want to make sure that you have to consider your schedules and what you're doing and all that kind of thing. And what I'm looking for is just maybe a little direction to get back to the DDA with on how this might work and what the best evening might be.
And their March meeting is March 12th, so they really would rather have it, before the 12th. So the 11th obviously works out really well, and it's right before the 4th is a possibility, to meet that timeline, but we are also, I don't know how busy we are already on that night, but and the 18th is kind of too late, then they're stuck kind of pushing it back a month. Thoughts? Clarifying questions for Jen?
Oh, I have a question, like, what's the strategy gonna be at this meeting? Is there gonna be, an agenda of sorts, or?
I think so. I think that that's something that we need to develop in partnership with them. And I think if you had direction about how items particular that you would like to have on that agenda, it would be helpful to me as well. Some of those things that I had mentioned, I think are important. And then we've had some other talks about other things I know that have come up over time. And so if there are items that you'd like me to bring forward as potential agenda items, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes, we will have.
I just,
You know,
I just want to make it efficient, you know, so like that we're not, I know it's meant to, I just don't want to, I would like to have it like an executive session in like an hour before one of our meetings, but that's my opinion.
Okay,
I'm flexible. I'm open to whatever, whether that's on the 11th or, you know, like Tanya suggested, an hour before the meeting. I'm flexible.
yeah, the one thing I would say, you know, whether it's the 11th or the 4th, is the first thing we do, you know, starting at 6. It probably needs a couple hours. Conversation that have had with Andrew, you know, the chair of the DDA, you know, there's just seems like plenty of things we need to talk to and trying to rush through it. And we definitely, you know, have just the things, we definitely have an agenda, just the things John just outlined. This is a very loose, you know, view of it. We can definitely have agenda of the specific things we want to talk about. And I think, you know, frankly, I think we struck, you know, 2 hours might be tight. Once we really start talking, because ideally it's all the BOT and all the DDA. What are folks thinking?
I'm fine with March 11th.
I'm good with March 11th.
You said something early on.
Oh, I said March 11th sounded like a good day for me too.
Okay, so that's, our clarifying questions. Any other clarifying questions? I will go to public comment. May have one. I'll go ahead and just go to public comment unless someone has a clarifying question that's burning. There's no one in the room, anyone online have a clarifying comment or something they want to say about this? Okay, no, seeing and hearing no comments, we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back to the board and just see exactly what John, what do you need?
I think one thing we could do, if you'd like to email me things, if you do think they have the agenda, that could be useful. And then we can get back to the DDA leadership and put that agenda together. But it sounds like if we do it, I guess the time would be, would you guys like to start on that night? Like what time, I guess, would you like to do it?
You want to start at 6 and go like 6, schedule 6 to 8 or 7 to go 7 to 9?
Is there any preference for end of day schedules for you all? I think they normally start at 6, so.
Is 6, Tanya, does 6
Yeah.
work for you? Tell me better for you. Sorry. Is 6 better or 7 better for you? I would say it's the 11th, it seems like most folks would be.
Are we suggesting replacing one of our meetings with this or having it on one of our off Tuesdays?
It would be on off Tuesday, it would be the second Tuesday. of
Gotcha.
the-
So like a 2-hour meeting. I don't care
Yeah.
what time. 7's better for me, but whatever.
Which is better for you? 7, she said. Yeah, I'm not, you're kind of choppy, I'm sorry. 7, is that what she said, right?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter, whatever you guys want. I mean,
But the DDA usually does 6, 7?
they usually do 6, yeah.
I'm gonna look at your calendars and see if you're forgetting something you got going on that night.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't even know.
I'm clear myself, so either would probably work for me. I think the 11th is better, so we can just focus. I think, it would also be good, in my opinion, that you, John, extend that invite to the DDA so that they too can send you ideas. I mean, I definitely think Andrew as chair will, but either you compile them from the DDA or each of them, it's free to send you stuff.
Yes, I can do that.
And then we can just all, you mean Andrew, maybe them.
Okay,
So the 11th, 6, 7, 6.
I mean, I prefer 6, but you know, I'll go with whatever.
I think 6 to 8. We'll schedule 4, 6 to 9, and we'll have a placeholder with 6 to 8, March 11th. Thanks everyone for doing that. In general, looking ahead, I don't think our March meetings are too beefy on the 4th or the 18th, but they're beefy enough where it'd be hard to do this without having a really long day. John, do you need anything else?
no, thank you all.
Just email John anything specific you want us to talk about. Thank you. With that, we'll go, I believe is our last item. And so, we'll take time now for public comment on non-agenda items. Public comment on non-agenda items, you have 3 minutes, there's no one in the room, so if anyone online, if you have a public comment, now's your time. Seeing none, is there any other business? Random motions?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yeah.
trustee Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sterling,
Yes.
trustee Maris,
Yes.
and trustee Larson.
Yes.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned at 9:45 PM.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye.